How's it going, Dowell? I'm sure you've been watching Tennessee's defense a lot this week, but have you been able to watch Tennessee's offense? And as an offensive guy, just what makes it so tricky to prepare for?
I haven't had a chance during this week to watch a lot of it, but through the last couple of years I have, just because there's some similarities between where I came from at Arkansas with Browse and that tree going there. It definitely, there's a lot of challenges, just like there are on offense. You got to battle tempo, a passing game. There's a lot of space. They formation you very well, and they've got really talented players doing it. So, it's a defense that Coach White could talk a lot more, or an offense that Coach White could talk about the challenges a lot better than I could. But I know that being on the opposite side of it, you understand how good they are.
How challenging is it to try to get rolling when you're having to call plays from inside your 1 and 2 yard line for your first two drives?
Well, yeah, it's I hate being backed up. I hate it. It's just nerve-wracking. You're lucky it's at home instead of on the road. It obviously offers a different set of challenges on the road than it does at home. But, our guys responded to it well. Our guys had a lot of confidence, something we work on every week. We end the week with it backed up. And normally you don't have – the first two series of game are on the 1 and the 2 to start, because your openers, you're thinking, hey, 25, worst case scenario. Like, that's where we're going to start building our opening script. And now all of a sudden you got to get off script, and there's things that come up. But, the theme of the game to me is we played smart football. And I said to you guys last week, the way to win is eliminate ways to lose. Well, I don't think we had a drop until the end of the game, the one late in the game. We had 2 penalties, which we had 8 the week before. We handled the middle 8. We had a 7-minute drive at the end of the game, or the end of the half, and scored with 30 seconds left, and then came out and answered and scored the first series of the first half, or the second half. And I think that's where we played smart football, and that starts understanding the situations, understanding there's things that come up backed up that you have to know. It's cadence, it's all those things that come up. Run plays are different, pass plays are different. So our guys did a great job handling the situations.
With the running game, especially Mario, was that more maybe what you had in mind going into the year, just in terms of an identity and what you were able to do on a down-to-down basis? I
mean, it makes things easier. I think every game's played differently. And I don't think that you can say, hey, we're going to be this or we're going to be that. Like, that game, I don't know that I had planned going into that game calling 39 runs either. But when the fastball's working, you throw it 27 straight times so you get out, till you end the game. But our guys, we still can be better too. Now, we ran the ball better than we have. We still left too much on the field as an offensive unit. Spencer was a big part of that too. He had a bunch of checks in the game. I think there was a 7-yard run down the red area that I'd called a different play. I called a shot to the end zone, and it's a first down play, and Spence checks to a run, and we gained 7 yards. We end up scaling the DK touchdown run. But if you throw an incompletion right there, all of a sudden you're second 9 on the 9, you're almost conceding points. But for him to be able to get us into a run play after a pass is called, I mean, that's a big part of the run game as well. And it's a big part of our run game success is Spence getting us in and out of the right plays, which we put a lot on him last week to do that stuff, and he did it for us.
Dal, we've heard a lot of your former players just talk about the trust that you have in them in terms of just being able to give them a little bit longer leash. I think Brian Hoyer actually just said something about you the other day.
The podcast, he sent it to me and asked me if I listened to it. I'm like, no, I have no clue about this stuff.
But going off from that, how much does the play with Spencer in terms of just being so smart with the football, does that give him a longer leash, and just the dynamic and the relationship that you guys have had? How much has it grown since you've arrived here?
Yeah, and you guys, I think I've probably said this to you guys. The line I always tell Spencer, it's biblical, but to whom much is given, much is required. And he's earned my trust. Some days with him, you feel like Superman as a play caller. Call anything, he'll make it right. He's spaghetti sauce. He'll cover up anything. He can just get you out of bad plays. He can get you into good plays. I can't speak enough about to the first 4 weeks what he's been for me and my confidence as a play caller, my confidence in this offense, the things that you can take more risk. You're not sitting in there at midnight saying, well, what if they do this and what if they do that? Hey, you know what? I bet we could teach Spence if he sees this to get to that. And that doesn't happen very often. It doesn't. So he's had a really good 4 weeks. It's just 4 weeks, though. And this is the first quarter of the season, and now we're entering the second quarter. Every week is hard here. That's what the biggest thing the last 2.5 years now that I've realized that coaching this conference is like the NFL. There are no easy ones. And you win a big one at home, and our crowd was awesome. And the Gamecock Walk was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced, and as far as atmosphere stuff and football. And But then you realize this week, like, holy crap, it's like just this game's harder and bigger, and it's just every week it's hard. So he's done a nice job for 4 weeks, but he has to continue to progress and get better, and he deserves a lot of the credit he's getting. He deserves all of it, and he deserves the accolades. But it still comes down to work and preparation and making sure we keep doing it. It's every week, every day's an interview in this conference.
Two on Spencer's runs, I guess the third down scramble, and he didn't slide or kind of slid or whatever. What did you say to him when he came off the field?
Get down. And when Spence is, you can, and you guys probably feel, I feel like our team feels it, like when he's vibing, I think is the word the kids use, like when he's vibing, like he's excited, and you can see he's like, that's when he's having fun. But it's also like, hey, take care of the ball and your body and get what you can and get down. Like, we don't need to take unnecessary hits. And but in that moment, like he wanted to win the game so bad. He was playing one play at a time, and that mindset and seeing the big picture and taking care of the football and his body, because he is very important to us. And like there's times when you need to do that stuff. But there's also a big part of like know when the journey's over and get down.
Then the run at the start of the fourth quarter, I guess he was
Down the right sideline.
Yeah. I guess he was a little more protective of himself.
Yeah, he was.
And he said I think he said he improvised on that play.
He did. It was an RPO, and he turned it into his own read, which I understand why he did it, but it's playing above the X's and O's. It's what we talked about with Lenore when he played, and he told you guys about him misreading the coverage and throwing a 70-yard touchdown. That's why I call him spaghetti sauce, because he had a read on the play, and he saw something, a weakness in the defense, and he improvised and he played above the X's and O's. Like, that's Spencer. That's not play call. That's not play design. That's not anything other than Spencer being a really, really talented player, and he makes play calls better. And that's what you want a quarterback. And there are very few on Sundays that can do it. There are very few guys on Saturday that can do it like he does.
Your offense is second to SEC in passing. When you played Georgia, there was some pre-snap penalties. How do you correct that going into an electric environment in Tennessee? Yeah,
it's a great question. That was one of our playing smarter football, playing cleaner football was one of our emphasis going from that game to the last one. It will continue. We're going to play in an awesome environment. I played there as a player like in 2002. I think we lost like a 5 or 6 overtime game where Witten caught a seam down the middle and beat us. In like the 5th or 6th overtime, we missed 3 field goals. So we're going to have to check the tape what Bob Holt said on that being the best holder ever. But it is like all these SEC venues, you feel the atmosphere. Just like people last week, Mississippi State felt ours. Like, you come in these things and they're packed houses with passionate fans, and you feel it on third down, you feel it on backed up situations, you feel it in the red area, especially near their student section. It takes concentration. It takes extreme discipline. We practice this stuff. We didn't do a good enough job coaching it last week or 2 weeks ago against Georgia because there are too many pre-snap penalties. That's something we need to continue to improve on, is playing clean football. We've taken a step in the right direction, and this week will be another huge test in an awesome environment, in a hostile environment.
Dowell, you mentioned Spencer being really good but still needing to improve on a few things. As you kind of coach him and watch film, what are some things you'd like to see him continue to improve on as you get into this back 8?
Yeah, there's it's like the way he's seeing the field and stuff. Like, I don't want to be super critical of him right now, but there is an urgency that we have as a coach to not let people relax. And I still think he can improve. Like, he's played really good football. He's played 4 really good games. You're careful to give credit in losses. You are. And you have to guard against that. You have to guard against feeling he's getting accolades, I'm sure, and praise outside because the way he is playing. But you have to understand what got you this point, and you have to stay focused on that, and you have to stay intense and hungry and continue to work and continue to do things that have allowed you to play with your preparation to this point. So, to me, it's a brand new week. Like, it's awesome. You played great for 4 games, and you really have. Like, you played super impressive. But that doesn't matter now. Like, we've built confidence. Sure, everyone knows in our locker room who our quarterback is and how talented he is, but we got a ton of work that we still got to do this week to play well. And I don't want him to lose that edge that he's created, and I don't want him to lose the momentum that he's created. It's a long season. Like, we're just a quarter through it, and I know he's locked in on that. There's still things we can improve. I don't want to go into detail about things that we can improve, but like they're still just stretching our drops and making good decisions with the football, know when to throw it away, when to scramble, when to take care of, know when the journey's over. There's just situational things that he is improving on. Like he is, and he's seeing things and he's learning things and hearing things for the first time. And, so I'm really happy where he's at, but we're just getting started with this thing, and the preparation and hard work has to continue.
I'm going to stay on topic and ask about Spencer as well. You mentioned earlier about being comfortable and taking risks as a play caller with him. When did that grow? How did that evolve? Did you know that you could do whatever in the preseason, or what did you have to see him in a game?
No, I mean, it starts in spring ball when I first got here, and it's like, all right, he's grasping everything, and then goes to summer, and like it has been. You guys can probably feel like I'm very guarded to give too many compliments. I don't want to do that because this position's really hard. And but like when you see him be able to handle the burden sometimes of a bad play or a play call that's not ideal for a coverage, for him to be able to check that or get through a progression. Like all of a sudden you start to feel that as a coach, you're in scrimmages and you're like, hey, he just got to 3 there. Like that's like the touchdown to Leggett, the long one. Like he's 3 in the progression. Like that means he's going 1, 2, 3, and he's getting through a progression. There are very few people that can get through 3 in a progression. Most people like 1, maybe 2, and take off running. And he's sitting back there staring things down. The Georgia play to Knox, that we unfortunately had the drop on. Like that's 3rd in the progression, and you're getting there and you're staring it down in the pocket, and you're making accurate throws. Like that's like, okay, hey, if this isn't open, he'll get to 3. There's in progressions, the way plays are built. There's always like you go through like a pure progression play. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes it's a progression with an option, which is like, hey, 1, 2, 3. But if it's quarters, you can do this. When they start seeing that stuff and they know where to go versus they start understanding defenses so well that's like, hey, it was quarters, so that's why I did that. It's like, wow, he's starting to see things really well. Like that's where the trust is built. It's not like, hey, he made a great throw. All of us can go out there and watch. My wife can go out there and watch him throw one-on-ones and say, wow, he's got every club in his bag. He's got every nap throw. He knows when to back shoulder. He knows when to throw it over the top. All that, but it's like also when you start watching him get to 3 and 4 in the progression and then keep his eyes downfield and scramble up and find a check down, like the one of the other I talked about the run check, but like the throw to Mario he gets hit and he's going through a progression. He kind of gets hit on his right shoulder and checks the ball down to his right to Mario down that sideline. That's a huge play that no one talks about, but like that leads to points. And some quarterbacks, their eyes go down, they collapse in the pocket, and they just panic. And when you see that, that's what builds trust. You're like, wow, if you're seeing that and you're executing that and you're not getting rattled in the pocket, like whatever we call is going to be good. And whatever we call, if one's not open, he'll get to 2, he'll get to 3, and he's going to keep his eyes downfield. Like that's when you start having a lot of confidence as a play caller. The other thing it does is it gives everyone else on the field, they know, hey, there's 5 viable options on this play. So like in 7-on-7, in 7-on-7 in games, like when it's like, hey, I might not catch this ball, and all of a sudden the ball goes up, and they're like, whoa, I didn't think that was I thought you put me as 3, but I didn't really think it was 3. Because the receivers, the smart ones, know where they're at in the progression. And all of a sudden, like, you're in 4, and he's like, whoa, I'm catching that ball. They run a little bit harder because they know, hey, Spencer will throw it to me. Like, it's not like 7-on-7, he's 1, 2, and starts taking off scrambling, or some teams are like, he's getting through progressions. And as a player and as a coach, like, that's what gives you confidence. That's where the confidence is built. Confidence is built from demonstrated ability, and all of a sudden he's done that on Saturdays in SEC games at huge moments. Like that's why you feel good about it.
With Leggett, I mean, we've heard a lot about just his work ethic and how that's sort of translated to the field. What does that sort of look like on a day-to-day basis for him? Like what jumps out as sort of setting him apart from the average guy in that regard? He's
as hard as any worker I've been around the NFL. Like I look back and I'm thinking through my career, guys have worked really hard. Like the guy who pops to mind, I had him in 2 different spots, is Frank Gore. Like that's how you play that long. Like the guy's incredible work ethic. But you see Leggett do it every day, and you don't take it for, like, at first you take it for granted because you're like, there's no way this guy can do it. And it's not just offense, it's special teams as well. And we just keep preaching to our guys, like, hey, young guys, watch him. Harbor, Tyshawn, Kelton, like, you guys watch how this guy works. Like, you want to know why he's having success? Watch. He's talented, sure. Like, when he walks through the door, you're like, let's find 53 players that look like that. But it's on top of his character, who he is, his football intelligence, on top of work ethic. It's all of it. Like, there's a lot of guys that just work hard, but you put talent with character and football intelligence on top of work ethic, you have a special person, and that's what he is. And so for us, you've heard this. It's coach talk, but it's not coach talk because it's real. Like, your best players have to be your hardest workers. That's how you create a culture. Like, when your best player is the hardest worker on the team, offense and special teams, in everything he's asked to do in the offseason program, like, he's not on any list. There's no school issues. There's no missing treatment issues. There's never late to the train room or late to snack or whatever that is. Like, then now you got something, because you can say, hey, if he does it, we all can do it. And he sets examples for our young players.
Dell, speaking about the Tennessee defense, I think they have close to 75 pressure through the first 4 games. What kind of challenges that front 7 present, and how do you go about scheming and game planning around that?
Yeah, this front's talented. It's really talented. It's as talented as any front we've played, and they do a great job. Especially now you talk about you play on the road, and so now there's environment stuff, and there's things that cadence and those things. Like, you have to play the game within the game. And that's a storyline to this whole thing. You asked about the false starts and procedure penalties. Like, you got to play clean football. So they definitely offer a huge challenge that way. It's a storyline of the game, to be honest. Like, they're good up front, and we're continuing to get better. And we have mechanisms and things that we can do to help our players that way. And some of this game, and you go back, you watch this tape last year, there was a lot of, it comes down to one-on-one battles sometimes. And you got to win your one-on-one battles, and that's going to be a big emphasis. But as coaches, there's a way to help sometimes and put those guys in advantageous situations and do things in pass protection and do different things that way, which I don't want to get too much into schematic things right now. But this is going to be a challenge for our guys up front to create one-on-ones. Not just it's everyone. It's the receiver running their route, getting to their correct depths, tight ends, running backs good in protection, the offensive line being good in one-on-one, Spencer throwing on time and in rhythm. So it's a 11-man deal as well, not just the offensive line. Thank you, guys.